Hello and good evening to tonight's Youth Commission Forum for the West Allis West Milwaukee School Board. You will have 2 minutes as an introduction, and we plan to give closing statements at the end. Ms. Carr, if you'd like to start.
Sure. So my name is Jane Carr, and I have been, well, let me take you back a bit. I graduated from college with my teaching license and got married in 1986. So my husband was got a job as a West Allis police officer, and he said, hey, we have this residency law. I have to move to the city of West Allis. Now, I only lived in Tosa, but I didn't get out much apparently, and I said, West Allis, where is that? And he teases me to this day because I said, Oklahoma Avenue, that's so far away. And that was 35 years ago, and I have been a proud citizen ever since. And shortly after I moved to West Allis, I got a teaching job at St. Aloysius on 92nd and Greenfield, and then I moved to the West Allis Public Schools, and I taught all over. I taught at Madison and Mitchell, and about the last 10 years of my career, I left the classroom and I did staff development, and I did instructional coaching for 4K through 12th grade. And it was at that point that I knew that after 35 years, I might be done working full-time and be done teaching, but I was not done with West Allis West Milwaukee School District. And I said after I retired that I would make sure that I continued the work that we have been doing with the strategic plan, and that's why I'm running.
Hello everyone, my name is Christine Booth. Oop, didn't have my mic on there for a minute. I'm a 28-year resident of the city of West Allis. I first rented and purchased our family home in 2003. Both my children, Gabby and CJ, attended West Allis West Milwaukee schools from 4K all the way through graduation. We also together raised their half-sister, along with also fostering a student when she was in high school. 3 years ago, I ran for a seat on the board and was fortunate enough to be honored to serve. Just ending that term now and seeking another term to continue the work. These last 3 years have been really hard, especially this last year with COVID was not fun. But looking into the future, I'm so proud of the past work that has been done by the board to put us in a much better financial situation, that we really are now in a place to create and build, and we're involving the community in that discussion. I want to thank the Youth Commission and all the time and hard work that you've put together to invite us this evening. This is one of the events that I always look forward to, because we hear questions from taxpayers and parents and teachers. But the real reason why we choose to do this work is for you guys. So to be able to hear questions tonight that come from you is important to the work that we do and to the future of our school district. So thank you all for inviting us and putting on this event. I look forward to spending some time with you this evening.
Hello everybody, thank you for inviting us to this forum. My name is Joseph Mikolajczyk. I'm a professional engineer and have owned and operated a consulting engineering company for 26 years. My degree is in mining engineering. I worked for a large tunnel contractor on the Deep Tunnel project. I worked for a couple other large projects. The company said, well, you can either go to California, DC, overseas, and that's when I said, sayonara. And that was one of the best things I've ever done. I think my education and training as an engineer has taught me logical, critical thinking, and problem solving. I think these attributes are important for you as students and important for members of the school board. I believe you and all students are important for the success of our community, our country, and our future. You are the crucial link in our country and our community succeeding, and a good education system is very important. It is almost the number one thing. And I thank you again for inviting me.
As the others before me have said, thank you for the invitation to participate in this forum. My name is Gary Schultz. I'm a 25-year resident of the village of West Milwaukee and a 1-year residential rental property owner in now the city of West Allis. In the 25 years I've been part of this school district, I've done much volunteering at the elementary school my children attended, which was Pershing Elementary, was PTA treasurer, and did many other events there as a volunteer. Then my children attended West Milwaukee Intermediate School, PTA treasurer there, and again, helped volunteer in many events. And then my children attended and graduated from West Allis Central High School. At West Allis Central, I was treasurer and president of their athletic booster club and did much other volunteering. I want to thank current and previous school board members who worked very hard to bring the school district out of a financial mess it had been in. I felt fortunate when I was elected 3 years ago to not have to make some of those tough decisions that previous school board members had to make, and put us in a much better position. And now we are in a significantly improved financial position, and the future is exciting. There are many challenges, but we have many opportunities ahead. And I wish to be a part of that. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Amy Deal, and I have been living in my husband and I got married almost 16 years ago, and that's when we made the decision to move to West Allis. When we started to add children to our family, including our oldest son, who we adopted at 17 months, we started to look into the school district, and we liked what we saw. We rented for the next 5 years and then purchased our home in 2010 because we knew that West Allis, we felt like it was a good fit. So my children, I have 3 children currently in the district. I have an 11th grader at Hale, I have a 6th grader at Lane, and I have a 2nd grader at Madison. This is our 14th year in the school district, and we have another 10 years to go. My husband and I we were co-founders of the Rose Hill Neighborhood Association, and I've been very involved with the PTA over the last 6 or 7 years on both a local and a state level. When I went to college many years ago, I initially went to become a teacher, and I realized that it wasn't my calling. However, I am aware of how important teachers are and how in developing our students, and so I'm really running because I want to see our district continue to go into a positive direction. I think that our district has a lot to offer our students and our families, but I also think we have a lot more to go. So I want to thank the Youth Commission for having this and allowing us to share our thoughts and ideas tonight.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Brendan Burns, and I am a 6-year resident of the city of West Allis, so compared to everyone else, I'm pretty new. I have ended up in this area out of my wife and I both changing careers at about the same time, and the Milwaukee area being the place that we ended up landing. And I ended up finding a position as a teacher, science, biology, and chemistry at New Berlin Eisenhower, and I taught there for about 4 years. And I got to the point where teaching was consuming me to such a degree that I was not able to be present for my family. When it came to the weekends, when it came to after school, I was always thinking about teaching, and so I had to change careers just for the sake of my family. And so I currently actually work for a company out of California, and we work on diagnosing rare and undiagnosed diseases in underserved patient populations. And so all my days are consumed with putting puzzles together of different symptoms that people have and identifying different genetic alterations in their DNA and putting it together to see if we can get them a diagnosis to actually get them treated if possible. I'm running for school district for a seat because I want my children to have the best education possible. And I think in order to do that, all of the children of West Allis need to have the best education possible because it is a shared experience. And I really think that together we're able to be better if we do it in a way that incorporates everyone and brings us together and challenges us. Thank you very much, and thank you for having us tonight.
Thank you guys for your answers to your introductions. Questions will now be a minute and a half. Thank you for paying attention to Sophie, because last time we managed to run over. Well, we're not going to talk about the deer lines to the west. Our first question will come from Sydney.
What unique skills and qualifications do you have that will make you a successful school board member, and why did you decide to run? Ms. Klug, if you'd like to start. Yes.
I spent almost 20 years doing medical transcription work, raising my kids here in the district. I had done many things before that, interacting with people and in sales capacity, worked as a receptionist for a medical research facility in Memphis, Tennessee. There are many things that I think that I bring to the board that maybe are minor but major in a lot of ways. I think that I have a sense for writing it on. What really goes into taking an oath of office and understanding what that oath means, following state statutes, making sure that we're not getting too far ahead of ourselves or off track in any way. The reason that I'm running again is that we have just started to build and create a school district that will be recognized one day as the destination district that it used to always. And we're going to continue to do that through our deeper learning work, our project-based learning work to attract more families to our district, and just to continue to build and grow on that significant work that I think is going to be really important, and I want to be part of that.
Thank you.
Like I said before in my opening, I believe I'm a good critical thinker and problem solver. And that is important for a group of people, like a school board, tackling complicated issues, which there are quite a few complicated issues. Having developed and kept complicated budgets, I believe really helps me in the financial area of the school district. And there have been many financial problems. They should have been intercepted before a lot of them happened. They were not. That's water over the dam. There's not too much you can do about it. Another reason, and one of the main reasons I ran for the school board, and I've heard this from countless parents. If you remember right, in March of last year, school was shut down. It still has not been open full-time a year later. That hurts the students, yourself, your parents. There's been a myriad of problems because of that. Kids need to be in school full-time. You probably agree with me on that, but that is one of the main reasons I ran, and almost everybody I talk to as I'm campaigning, that is a big issue, and it's an important issue. Thank you.
So I think one of the things I bring to this position is I have a broad perspective on issues. I'm not tied to a specific ideology. I'm not conservative, I'm not liberal, I'm not Republican, I'm not Democrat. I look at individual issues on their merits. I may make a decision and have a viewpoint on one issue that may seem more conservative, and then on another issue, another matter before the board, I may have a perspective that may tend to be more liberal. So that's one of the things I bring to the table. The other thing I bring is in a previous career, I worked as a transportation planner with the Wisconsin Department of Transportation. And I understood what it was like to work on a project in which you have a once in a generation, a highway project that's going to be built once every 25 years, and making sure it has the best improvements. At that time, I worked as a bicycle and pedestrian planner. So my job was to look at bicycle and pedestrian facilities and highway projects. We have a facilities team right now that's meeting, that's looking at our once in a generation opportunity to improve our schools. So I think my previous experience at DOT will help me as we move forward with our facilities work.
So what I feel that I would bring to the board that is unique and different from other people is actually my professional background. I do have a master's degree in community counseling, and I've spent the last 15 years doing a variety of jobs. I've done neuropsych testing with children and adolescents from, well, actually infant all the way up until 21. I've also done mental health case management and long-term care case management with people of all different ages. I feel that in those roles as a case manager, I was faced with a lot of people, like I had a lot of clients who were underserved, and a lot of times they didn't have a lot of resources, and so I had to go into the community and find resources for them. I'm a great problem solver. I'm a great communicator. I feel like I'm able to talk with other people and even in terms of my work with the PTA, I've always been able to work well with other parents and with families to find out what they need and what they want from the district. Yeah, I also would like to say that over the years, I have always been an education advocate, even though I'm not a teacher or in that field, but I think it's very important that our children, that you guys get a great education so that you can lead us into the future. Thank you.
So what makes me unique, I think, is what makes all of us unique is our experiences. That's what I bring. I bring my unique perspective that each of us do, but how is mine different? I have a collection of jobs where I have both worked in the public sector and the private sector. I've worked as a teacher, I've worked as an educator, I've worked as a coach, I've worked as a student, and I currently work as a scientist. And so I am constantly solving problems, putting puzzle pieces together, and evaluating information that's given and weighing the costs, the benefits, and how important each piece is, because that's critical to my job. I think that I have a strong communication ability that I can bring to this. I'm also very nervous, but I have a strong communication ability that I think I can bring to this board, and I think that I'm willing to work with anybody that's willing to work. I'm willing to make tough choices, and I'm ready to be that person that's in a leadership role that's going to help West Dallas, West Milwaukee push our district to the place that it needs to be, and that's competitive and a destination. Thank you.
Well, I think that my character is something that I bring to the table. I have always been known throughout the district. I have a reputation of being a kind person. I was into kindness way before it was popular. Like, it is a thing now, but it has always been my motto to be kind and approachable, and I think that my character is something that is an asset. But I think the other thing that is really important is that we want you all to know the deeper learning competencies. And I think that those 6 competencies are what I am really good at. So content mastery, obviously I've been part of our district for a very long time. I know a lot about our community and our students and our instruction. I'm an expert in that. So I've got content mastery, communication skills, not just in speaking, but in writing and in listening, problem solving, critical thinking, collaborating, self-directed learning. I'm here because I wanted to do this. I didn't have to. And then, of course, an academic mindset that says, I'm surrounded by people and community that have faith that I can do the best job.
Thank you.
Before we step over to your second question, we did have a technical error, so Ms. Klug, if you could answer it again. We're going to give you another minute and a half to answer the same question. If you'd like it repeated, I can happily do that for you.
Sure, go ahead and repeat that for me, please.
What unique skills and qualifications do you have that will make you a successful school board member, and why did you decide to run?
Okay, thank you. I'm going to answer this obviously different than I did the first time because I'm just talking from my heart. I mean, 3 years ago I was elected to serve on the school board, and I was honored. I'm just completely honored. There are so many skill sets that I think all of us, bring uniquely to the table and that currently exist on our board. I think that we have a very good board and that we work, collaboratively together to come up with best possible solutions for what we're tackling, at the moment. The reason that I'm decided to run again is that the work isn't done yet, right? We still had some tough decisions to make over these last 3 years, and I feel like we were all kind of robbed this last year with COVID, right? So I'd like to get back in the boardroom and continue our work through our deeper learning competencies and the project-based learning, and to come up with some great solutions for our community, for our aging buildings, and that all comes from community conversation from each of you and where your paths are going and how we can best address all of those needs and come up with a great plan that moving forward, not just in the next few years, but on down in the future, will create a district where people want to live here, want to come and educate their children, and are proud to say that they were educated by the West Allis West Milwaukee School District. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I believe we got it that time. Our second question will come from Lily.
What reforms does the WAWM school district need to make, and what will you do to make these changes if elected? Mr. M., you can start.
I think, like I stated before, kids need to get in school. I realize there was just a meeting the 22nd, and it was decided to start nearly full-time school, not for high school students, but for the smaller children. Could you repeat that question again? I lost my train of thought.
What reforms does the WAWM school district need to make, and what will you do to make these changes if elected?
There need to be some financial reforms. I have not dug into the budget that close, but there are a lot of costs that can be looked at, in my opinion. The enrollment is going down, but it doesn't appear the budget is going down. I believe there's $127 million in the budget total. $43 million of that is from the tax levy. That should be looked at very closely, in my opinion. Thank you.
For reforms and changes, I think some of what we're going to do is going to be dependent on how the facility team comes up with the recommended plan for how we're going to build facilities moving forward in the district. We'll be making reforms to how schools are structured. We'll be making reforms to how many teachers we have in school, the types of teaching teams we have. Right now, we have a situation where elementary schools, primarily, we have different types of teaching. Some of the larger schools have a different teaching method with teaching teams, where some of the smaller elementary schools don't have those advantages. They have to teach using a different model. So the biggest reform we're going to have moving forward is the structure of teaching in the district. That will be the biggest change. But that reform is going to be dependent upon what we come up with from the facilities plan. And related to that will be the reforms that we need to make in the teacher salary structure, how we compensate our teachers. That is another big reform we have, because we need to do what we can to keep, retain, and attract the highest quality teachers in our district.
In terms of reforms, I think that there's two huge areas. One is teacher retention. Our district is losing teachers at a phenomenal rate, and we need to stop that. We need to stop hemorrhaging our good teachers. They're going to other districts. So that's one thing. I think we need to work on developing a teacher compensation plan that teachers actually want and are competitive with districts around us. Similar to what Gary said, the other big thing reforms is going to be based around facilities. Our district is also losing students. We're losing students because I think, in my opinion, it's because we do not provide our families with the educational choices that they want. My own sister lives in West Allis, and she open enrolls her child out of the district. That's a problem. We need to work on, I feel, developing specialty schools or programming within our district so that families do have those choices. I am for something on the lines of a Spanish immersion school, language of the arts, which to me would make complete sense. We have such a wonderful music program here in our district. And we don't even have to do schools. We could do programming, provide programming in the high schools where you can come in and do a healthcare tract or a trade tract or something on that line. So I really feel that those are two of the biggest areas that we really need to, and as we're developing, I'm actually on the FAC committee, and we're developing, trying to figure out what we want to do with our facilities. And I think this would be a great time for us to be able to look at those specialty schools. Thank you.
Two dings. So what reforms? I am also running on a platform that is looking really hard at teacher retention. If we have a teacher that's making $40,000 a year, they get paid about $200 a day at the end of the year if they've gone through training, say 10 days, right? We're at $2,000. They stay here for 5 years. They're up $10,000. They leave, we've lost $10,000. We have to be able to keep our teachers, okay? And so my big goal is to change how we are working with our teachers, giving them a competitive salary, giving them the support structures that they need so that they can have a bigger voice in the school, so that they can direct policy, they can direct the community, and be in more of a leadership position. I also want to reduce the amount of time that they're having to deal with extra things. Because the teacher often during the school year, especially, will be working 60, 70 hours a week. Thank you. I also want to diversify opportunities for students. I want to look at the specialty schools, but I also want to look at other things that we can do. How do we incorporate the trades into the students' education? How do we expand those programs? How do we give our students more voice in what their school does and how it behaves and what that community looks like? And if we can promote our students to be the leaders as well as the teachers in the classrooms, we can have a strong schools system. Thank you.
So I'd like to look at the strategic plan. I was part of developing that strategic plan, and I think one of the biggest things that we need to be working on is equity. And if you know about our mission and our vision, we are all about that. We are about trying to create equitable experiences for kids. New Berlin, in West Dallas, and in West Milwaukee. And I think that we have 4 building blocks that we're working on, and one of them is the academics. And I think that that's the exciting part for me, because all of the things that we're trying to do with the deeper learning strategies and all the things that are coming down the pike with project-based learning, those are things that are going to reform our education. And then we move on to the next one, and that is teacher retention, and I solely agree with them. We've got to think of some ways to keep these teachers in our district. As an instructional coach last year, I wrote 6 letters of recommendation. I trained the teachers. I was the one that was giving them the coaching, and they're leaving. They're getting poached by other districts for more money. And then I think that, so that's obviously big. Our facilities, that's another building block of our strategic plan, absolutely. And then the 4th one is community. Everyone having a voice, all of the students and the parents and the taxpayers all coming together for the common good.
Could you read the question for me again? Thank you.
What reforms does the WAWM school district need to make, and what will you do to make these changes if elected?
Well, I think right now, there's no need for reforms. I think it's more of what we want to do with our district, right? And taking a look at what's working well in other communities and other districts. I think smaller class sizes, for one, is a huge benefit. When my children attended, we used to have SAGE schools, and I think that was really beneficial for them, and I'd like to see that again. I'd like to see more teachers, or less kids assigned to one teacher. I think that before I came here tonight, I went on the State of the Schools presentation, the first one. There's going to be 2 more that come up in the next several weeks, and one of the teachers was there, and she said that she was so proud to be a part of this district because she can see through the deeper learning work that we're doing, the project-based learning, how exciting it is for her as a teacher, right? We're getting away from students memorizing things and really understanding and having a hands-on experience. One of the things that I know that we're looking to do on the high school level is give every student like a college experience before they graduate. I'd like to move that up and see that happen right around sophomore year, because I really think that by that time, when you're a sophomore, you should really know what it is that you want to do when you complete those next 2 years of high school, where your path is headed. Thank you for the question.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Our 3rd question will be coming from Sydney again.
The school board voted to send students back to school starting March 22nd. What do you see the 2021 to 22 school year looking like for students knowing that COVID will still likely be present? Will there be masks or school-wide events? Mr. Schultz, could you start this one?
The 21-22 school year most likely will be back to normal. I would like to see it back to normal. I was once school board member during this recent year, who was more of an advocate for getting kids back into schools faster. By the 21-22 school year, we should have herd immunity. Vaccines will have been readily available. Most people should have had the opportunity to be vaccinated. What's going to be interesting is how many people decide to enroll in the school district virtual academy. That could take some students out of our physical buildings, so it may make the physical buildings more open to accommodate spacing between students and a different instructional style, depending on the number that choose that route. As far as activities, I believe we should be getting back to normal as much as possible. We have an opportunity to provide our future students with the most normal, most enhanced opportunity for learning and living a true high school experience.
In terms of the 21-22 school year, I honestly would hope that when we get back that we will not be able to have to wear masks. But again, I think it's all going to be dependent on us as a community. Are we getting vaccinated? Are we creating herd immunity? I strongly believe in following the CDC guidelines. So I feel that it's important for our school district to continue to look at that. So I guess my hope is that we can get back to what we are normal before COVID, but I can't really say that we can do that. I just would like our schools to continue to use the safety measures that we have in place and possibly tweak that as we get more information about this new novel virus. Thank you.
Yes, I think that the 21-22 school year will be more back to normal. Yes, I think there will be masks, because I think that what this has not only demonstrated is that it helps with COVID, but even for just sicknesses like the flu have been significantly reduced. So if people want to wear masks, I don't think that that's something that we should need to get rid of. But will that limit our ability to actually have a normal high school experience and middle school experience? I don't think so. I think that as long as our community is doing its part to make sure that we're protecting ourselves, following the science that's out there that tells us how to fight against these diseases, I don't see us having any issue with having what would be a normal school year, with activities, with things that make us feel like we like being here and give us those memories that allow us to carry through our adult life. So yes, I think it'll be more back to normal. Thank you.
This pandemic has changed history. It has made history. It is going to change education in some way. And I don't know necessarily that that's a bad thing. I think that if there are people that still want to wear masks and because of their experience, I think that it would be very appropriate to say, go ahead and do that. I think that there will be people that will still want to, and I think it should always be an option. And I think that there should be a virtual option now as well, until we really, really know more. But I am hoping, I am an eternal optimist, and I am hoping that we will be back, not to normal, but to a new place where we will be more educated in how we are together in the buildings, and how we can maybe we can seat ourselves so that we aren't all crowded, but we can take the experience, learn from it, and move forward and go back to our new normal. Thank you.
Did you want me to answer now? Okay, I saw there was some commotion. So who knows? I mean, who knows what's going to happen next week, next month, even to talk about next school year in September. I think what we'll do is just continue to, look to the experts, right, into how we can safely operate schools when that comes. I'm, like Jane, I'm hopeful that we can get back to some sense of normalcy. I mean, that'd be nice. I think that the purchase of the Air Surface Pro air purifiers that the school district purchased, I don't think they understand the technology that they have and how that is going to really be a wonderful mitigating strategy. I don't know that we can get away from the mask wearing or not. I don't know. We'll have to see what that looks like and make those decisions as they come up. I hope so. I really feel for our learners that are immunocompromised, that have no choice, and also for their siblings that obviously have no choice as well, right? You have one family member that can't attend school or can't go outside of the home. That's the entire family. I'm proud of our district that we went from emergency virtually learning to learning how to do that really, really well. And that for a lot of our students that worked out very well for them. I'm happy about that. I'm also happy that we were able to return kids at least 2 days a week, after the holiday season, and get those kids back so that they're not losing that sense of, I can learn, right? You know, you don't want to hear a fourth grader say, I hate school. We want to make sure that they love school and that they'll always be a lifelong learner. Thank you. Sorry I went over.
Could you repeat the question, please?
The school board voted to send students back to school starting March 22nd. What do you see the 2021 to 2022 school year looking like for students, knowing that COVID will still likely be present?
I'm not a fortune teller. I don't know. But I do know that the physical facilities of the buildings have been upgraded. There have been many plexiglass barriers, all that. And I also know that a majority of the schools in this area have been going to school full-time in the classroom with no hiccups and really no problems. That's what a lot of parents are asking to me. They're saying, how can that be there and it's not here? I certainly hope that things are completely normal, but I'm not a fortune teller. I don't know. Your school experience is important in your life. I want you to go to homecoming, prom, football games, the whole thing. That is part of living. It's part of being a student. That's important. And that has not happened for a long time. And that needs to be part of your education. Thank you.
Thank you.
So before we go to the next question, just like Ms. Klug, Mr. Schultz, could you answer the question again? Your mic didn't pick up the question. Would you like me to read the
Okay.
question again?
No, that's fine. I'll try to get give a Reader's Digest version of what I said. So, yeah, I was one of the few I was the school board member who wanted to get kids back in school sooner. I believe 21-22 should be close to a normal school year. By that time, we will have had herd immunity. By that time, most, if not all, Americans will have had some opportunity to get a vaccine. And we understand better. We know that we have the virtual academy that the school district is implementing. That will remove some students from the physical buildings. So our physical buildings will have additional space. Now, we don't know what that is at this time, but once that is known, we'll have a better opportunity to space students more in our schools. And I believe that students, our future students, deserve an opportunity to live a high school experience, to not have to be afraid, and to be able to enjoy a high school experience that they deserve.
All right, thank you. Our fourth question will be asked by Saoirse.
What in-person or virtual district event have you attended recently that impacted your decision to run for school board and why? And then, Ms. Steele, could you start?
Can you repeat it one more time?
What in-person or virtual district event have you attended recently that impacted your decision to run for school board and why?
Probably the virtual event that kind of solidified my decision to run for school board would be actually at my youngest child attends Madison Elementary, and we did a virtual bingo night, and it was absolutely phenomenal. The kids just had a great time, and I think that really solidified for me that that's the thing that I love about West Allis and I love about our school district is that I feel we are a very strong community. I feel that we do pull together and try to help each other out, and I want to be even more involved in that. I already am involved, obviously, at my children's schools, through the PTA and such, but I wanted to do it on even more of a level, on more of an official level. So I would say that was probably the event that made me realize that I want to run for school board for sure.
Probably the event that solidified my urge to run was having to teach school at home along with the teachers in the district. Have 2 young children. My well, 3 young children, but 2 that are in school. And my middle just started his 4K experience this year. And being in that environment while we're trying to work and while the teachers are trying to teach, and it was a daily challenge, and seeing what the teachers have to go through in order to meet the needs of all the students in these challenging times with sometimes very limited time frame to make shifts, made me want to come in and make sure that I can do whatever I can to both make my children's education stronger, but also support those teachers because they do a ton for us every day. And I think that attending school every day is what made me want to make sure that I was running and that I could make this district better. Thank you.
Being part of the district for as long as I have taken such a sense of pride in all of the things that we've done throughout the years. I can't tell you how many PTA Founders Day carnivals I've been to. I've actually been part of, running the games there. Back in the day when I was a teacher, I've gone to the art shows and the plays, and I attended the virtual radio show that was put on because we weren't allowed to have a play this year. And I think that I've always known that I wanted to run because I've always wanted to continue the great work and with all of the arts and music and athletics. I attended the football games just like everybody else. And so I think that I've always just been a huge proponent of all of that. Thank you.
Gosh, I really miss the plays. Oh my gosh, we have such talented kids in the orchestra, and when we can do a musical, I really hope that we get back to that sometime really soon would be great. But in answer to your question, I think the thing that motivated me the most was at the end of last school year in the 4th quarter when the students get to do their student showcase and they get to go public. And the public's invited in, moms, dads, family members, and you can just go around to all of the different booths, and the students are speaking so confidently about what they've learned. It's such a rewarding experience after all of the hard work and hard decisions to be able to come in and be able to see that that work is actually being done and that it's connecting with kids and their education. I think that's probably one of the things that motivates me every day to continue to do this work. I don't know what else to say other than that. It's one of my favorite things, but I'd like to be able to get back into the plays. It'd be nice to be able to sit in the auditorium again and listen to some music live. Thank you.
I have observed a lot of in-person virtual district meetings. I have not attended any because most of them have been virtual. But I have noticed, and I did this to learn about the inner workings of the school board, how it operated, things like that. I did notice a lot of people do not ask questions and are not at the school board meetings. Virtually, and when they could attend meetings, a lot of people did not attend meetings. I believe we need more community involvement, more parents and students attending meetings and asking questions. The school board is important to the community. It is vitally important. And I'm going to try to get more people to get involved with asking the board questions and things of that sort. Thank you.
It wasn't a single event. It was talking to parents in the district during the 100% virtual learning that impacted me. It was widening equity gaps and talking to people who were hit hard economically and financially, as they were working jobs where they had to be on site, but they had to be at home to educate their children. We had people with professional privilege able to work from home who made decisions, and that impacted the people who could not work from home. And those people communicated to me loud and clear, talking to people who income in their household was cut in half, people who are struggling financially, people who just were having trouble making it, just getting by. That's what drove me. One of the reasons, I should say, that was one of the reasons that drove me to run again, to make sure that if we're ever in this situation again, we just think more about those that don't have professional privilege.
All right, thank you guys again. Our fifth question will come from Aria.
In 2018, the city of Wauwatosa passed a $125 million referendum to update and modernize their schools. What are your thoughts on the WAWM school district putting a similar facilities funding referendum on the ballot? Mr. Burns, if you would like to start, please.
My thoughts are, I don't know that we have a choice. We have infrastructure in our district that is extremely old, and I'm not sure that there is another viable way for us to be able to get the facilities that we need to get the educational components in place for the students. We need to be able to diversify our instructional strategies. We need to be able to diversify what offerings we have. So I don't know that we have another choice in the matter, unless we want to cut a lot of things out. And since we are already a district that has been leaned up because of past financial issues, I'm not sure what more that we can do without punishing students further. So what options do we have? I don't know. I think that that's probably our best option if we really want to make West Dallas a destination district again. If we want to be able to provide for you guys the education that you need to be successful in the future. So, yeah, that's my thoughts. Thank you.
So I always think that asking taxpayers for any more money should be an absolute last resort. But I do feel that if we are going to ask them for money, I think that this should be a celebration. I think that we should, as a community, celebrate coming together and maybe renovating some facilities or remodeling some facilities so that we are a destination district. I don't think taxpayers mind paying taxes for schools. I think what they mind is when we ask them to give us money because we made poor decisions in the past or poor investments. And I think that they mind when they don't understand exactly where the money's going or exactly what they're going to be getting as a citizen. And I think when we bring everybody together and we tell them, look at what we can get for this, how it can impact our community, how being a homeowner and having a destination school, that's good for your taxes. That's good for your property. Your property goes up. The community thrives. The city thrives. And so, yes, we do not want to ask for a referendum unless we absolutely have to. But if we do, let's really come together as a community and embrace it and make it work. Thank you.
Thanks for this question. I just wanted to touch on something that Jane said. I think oftentimes what happens with school districts when they go to the community for a referendum is that the community votes on the referendum based on the information that they have at the time. And what ends up happening in often cases is that school districts don't use that revenue for the intended purpose it was asked for. That will not happen here. We are in an excellent financial situation right now, and so this is definitely the time to take a look at this. I think that our district, in assembling the FACT committee from all community members, from city leaders, from families, from parents, from all different, backgrounds, to really dive in very detailed information, which is available on our website. You can, review the minutes, review the 300-page report that's there, that's been put together. But this is a decision that the community is going to have to make. We obviously want to create safe buildings for you guys to attend in. 5 of our elementary schools are over 90 years old, those original portions of the building. And we are trying to do things for you kids and offer you education in spaces that we just don't have the ability to do them in now. So this is going to be a decision that the community makes, but it's also going to be a very thoughtful process leading up to that point. I think that's all I have.
Okay, could you please repeat the question again?
Yeah, of course. In 2018, the city of Wauwatosa passed a $125 million referendum to update and modernize their schools. What are your thoughts on the WAWM school district putting a similar facilities funding referendum on the ballot?
That should be the voter's choice. I am not in favor of that personally, but I'm not the voter's complete. What happened in 2017 was not right. A referendum went to the voters for $112 million. It failed. The administration, not the school board, the administration, then got a $115 million loan from the state. Now that's wrong. If a referendum fails, it should fail, and you should not go in the back door to go against the will of the voters. And people I've talked to are very upset about that. They don't like that at all, and I don't like that at all. It's not fair. Thank you.
Agree with Mr. Burns. We don't have a choice. Even if we don't make any changes to the physical structure of our schools need updating. They need work. I mean, mechanical systems need upgrading. Physical systems need upgrading. Technology needs upgrading in our schools. And it costs a lot of money. So we are going to have a referendum. I've said that before. I've been saying that for months. I posted on my website. I talk about our facilities challenges. And we are going to have a referendum. It's just what is going to be amount and what the referendum will be for. Will it be just to fix what we have in place? Will it be to enhance what we have in place? Or will it be to build new? And I'm on the Facilities Advisory Committee team. We're putting together pathways for how we want our school communities to look in the future, how we want the physical spaces to be, and that will guide us. And there will be a referendum. I mean, I'm going to admit, I'm not going to hide the fact. We are going to have a referendum. It's just what's going to be the amount and what will it be for.
In this particular question, I agree 100% with Brendan and Gary. I also sit on the Facility Advisory Committee with the district. And as a parent of 3 children in the district, I want my kids to have the best. And education does not look the same way it did when I was in school. You aren't lined up, in desks in a row, whatever. If we want to move towards a project-based learning model, we have to have maker spaces, and we have to have the technology, and we have to be able to provide, or, the wood shops, all those type of things. We needed to provide those to our students, and we can't do all of that in our current facilities. Our district, I keep hearing about finances, our district has worked very hard to get where they're at right now. I commend the board. We are at a AA- rating. We've gone up 7 ratings in the last year. We're at the top rating. We have no referendum So I am strongly in favor of a referendum because I think that it's important for our students. The only way that you guys are going to get the education that you deserve is that we provide the spaces, the facilities, the technology that you need to be able to do that.
All right, thank you guys again. The sixth question will be from me. If the funding referendum were to fail or not move forward, what will you do to improve the current school buildings, Ms. Carr?
So once again, you did hear that we said that just for capital improvements, it'd be about $200 million. So that's a tough question to answer. I mean, I think that, you know, the average school building is 75 years old in our district. So I think that we would make the best of it. You know, we would probably put together another facilities team, and we would ask for community input, student input, and we would try and remodel for less expense. Thank you.
Wow, you know, I hadn't thought about that until just now. I guess what we would have to do is come up with a plan B. We're obviously running way too many school buildings than what we need to right now. I mean, we used to educate like 12,000 students, and now we're just a little over 7,000, and that's kind of where our projected, you know, student enrollment will be in 2035. So we obviously don't need 11 elementary schools and 3 intermediate schools and 2 comprehensive high schools and 2 specialty high schools. So I guess the plan then will be just to take a look at how we can service the students that we have in the district with buildings that that are maybe newer. I don't know. That would be like, I don't know. We're gonna have to, like maybe Jane said, we're gonna have to come up with a team that says, okay, well, what's plan B if this fails? I think that's probably where our approach would go. Thank you.
If a referendum would fail, you need to investigate other sources of revenue. I don't know enough about the inner workings of the school board and the budget, but there's always a possibility of selling assets. If there's buildings you're not using, you may be able to sell them. There is land that the school district owns that could be sold. I've seen a for sale sign on the property on Cleveland Avenue, just west of Highway 100, for about 7 or 8 years, if my memory is correct. That's for sale. When I talked to somebody while I was campaigning, this lady said to me, I own my house here. There's a lot immediately adjacent to her house. She wanted to buy it. She approached the school district or the administration, I don't know what, and they wouldn't sell it to her. You need to investigate further revenue and also go back to plan B. Look at things. Enrollment is going down. Maybe you don't need to do all of this. Thank you.
I think first we would find out why the referendum failed and not give up on the referendum. If the citizens of the district that defeated the referendum, find their feedback, find out why they defeated the referendum. Maybe they didn't like the facilities plan that was put forward that the referendum would have funded. Get feedback, and see, maybe we have to change the facilities plan to match what the residents desire, and then try for referendum again. I worked for a gentleman who lived in Middleton. They went through 3 referendums before the district residents finally passed a referendum. Twice the residents said, you got it wrong. We want something else. The 3rd time they came back, they made changes to their plan, and the citizens passed it. So I wouldn't give up on the referendum. We need to find out where we need corrections. Now, if after years and years we can't get a referendum through, then we're going to have to start taking drastic measures like school closures and working with our current engineering firm to come up with the critical infrastructure needs to correct in our district.
So if the referendum, when it passed, I think that, well, I think it should be said that I think no matter what we end up doing, we are gonna be closing schools. I mean, we currently have enough room for 8,900 students. We have 7,400 students that are enrolled in our district. I don't see us enrolling additional, 1,500 students, bringing them back to the district. So I think that's one option that we look at is closing schools. I agree with Joseph that we might have to look at selling off some of those schools. Oh, I'm sorry. There, can you guys hear me? No, all right, sorry about that. All right, well, yes, okay. So I was gonna say, I agree with Joseph that we should look at that. I think that is something that we need to look at if we do end up closing some of our schools. We do have schools that are areas that are more commercial that we might be able to sell more than some other schools. I also think that we need to look at businesses or sponsorships. If that would fall, like if, in our high schools, maybe we can get somebody in that will be able to sponsor a trade area or something on that line. Looking at our community to be able to create some reciprocal relationships where we can possibly bring some improvements to our facilities. And again, I also agree with Gary, there's nothing wrong with us going back and to the drawing board and figuring out what is it that people really want. It might be that they didn't like what the FACT committee or whoever decided on. So I think there are some options if that would happen.
So referendum failing is, I don't think that would be a great thing for the West Allis community. I think the first thing that we would see is we'd see families and students and teachers leave. And then we would have to lean up. And then with that lean up, that's where we would have to look at, can we sell properties? Can we increase class sizes? What can we do to minimize the impact on the district and the financials to make sure that we can keep going and provide the education at some level? But yeah, I think that if it fails, we have to look at how do we come back at it? What do we have to change? What do we have to be transparent about? How do we sell the improvements to the community, to the students, to the parents that says this is the way to go? These are the things that you're going to get from this. And if the first sale wasn't enough, we're going to have to try another pitch. Because if we don't, I don't know that West Allis is going to do anything but stagnate in the near future, because we just don't have the facilities to do what we need to do.
All right, thank you again. Our 7th question will be coming from Taylor.
What song best sums you up as a person? Miss Klug, go first.
What song?
What song?
Best sums me up as a person?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh,
It's hard. To be honest with you, I don't listen to music. I spent the majority of the time raising my kids with headphones on, having a clinician in my ear for 10, 12 hours a day. Before that I did, but geez, I have never really thought of it. I'm sorry, I don't have a good answer. I just really don't. It's a great question, but I really don't agree. I'm interested to hear what the other members of the panel have to say, but
I love Western swing. Anything by Asleep at the Wheel. You have Asleep at the Wheel with Willie Nelson, George Strait. There's one song that is really funny and catchy. It's called Big Balls in Cowtown. And it's about a dance. And it's very good. Thank you.
Sorry about that. That's a tough one. I listen to a lot of music, so I have a lot of songs. It's hard to narrow one, but I do like Johnny Cash, so I'm going to pick Walk the Line by Johnny Cash.
This is like really, really hard because I listen to a lot of music. I'm gonna actually say probably, it's kind of sound kind of sappy, but Celine Dion, A New Day Has Come, just because for me, I've faced a lot of adversity in my life at different points in my life, and I feel like the best way that you can get through it is that you just have to look at each day as a new day. And so I would go with that, so.
I have really no idea. I think lots of songs speak to any component of me. I think that the song that just keeps popping into my head right now is Bicycle Race by Queen. So that's just to my own tune.
Well, I do love a good country ballad, I'll have to say. I like when I can understand the words, and I like one that tells a story. But I have to say, I love listening to Jack Johnson and Banana Pancakes, and he is, he's just an uplifting singer as well. And I don't know if any of you have ever listened to him, but I highly recommend him.
All right, thank you, and I applaud the one who said "Walk the Line" because that's a great song. Our 8th question will come from Aria. Or Sydney now.
There was a questionnaire change, so. What will you do to make the West Dallas School District a first choice district for families in West Dallas and from neighboring communities? Mr. Mikolajczyk, Mikolajczyk, will you start?
I would say probably to improve the shop classes and things like that, to make it a destination. That would probably be, in my opinion, the best way to do it. This problem with reduced enrollment, that I think can be solved fairly easy with getting back to school. A lot of people left the school district and went to other schools because they couldn't bring their kids to school. But to make it a destination, I would say shop classes, trades, things like that, because not all kids want to go to college. Not all kids are capable to go to college. But you can make a very good living in the trades, and a lot of people do that, and they know that. Thank you.
I'm going to answer this in 2 parts. One, hope for the best, plan for the worst. In a best case scenario, the residents pass a large referendum that allows us to build first-class facilities for our students. Facilities that are going to help support our project-based learning model. Facilities that are going to give us technology and the spaces needed for careers in the future, whether it's a professional career, technical career, we will have facilities in place. Now, let's say we don't get a referendum and we have to just go off of what we have. Then it becomes more difficult to make us a destination school, because one of the things Mr. Burns had mentioned earlier was stagnating. You know, we could become a school district that stagnates, and then we have to make tough choices. So one of the things I would do with our limited funds at that time, I work in information technology, I would do as much as we can to improve information technology. Make us a school that has the technology that maybe would bring families to our district.
I am going to go back to the idea that I mentioned before. I think that families and students want choice. And so I think that to become that destination district again, we really need to be able to provide choice. And whether it's through specialty schools, through programming, as I mentioned before, you know, having more of a programming in terms of trades or healthcare or whatever on the high school level. I also think that it's important that we are providing opportunities in all of our schools for our students to be involved in the activities that they want to be involved with, whether it's athletics, whether it's student government, you know, yearbook, whatever. Newspaper, and I think every school, it's going to be different. You know, we need to individualize our schools to the community. When families feel like they're being heard and that their school is adapting to them, then they feel like they belong to the school, and they're more willing to to stick around. I also believe that again, passing a referendum and getting our facilities improved would help greatly in attracting people back to the district. People like knowing that their kids are going to a school, a nice shiny school with all the resources that they need. So I think that would be a way to bring people back too.
Could you repeat the question for me, please?
What will you do to make the West Dallas School District a first choice district for families in West Dallas and from neighboring communities?
Okay. So I'm also on board with expanding opportunities for the students, which includes specialty schools, specialty programs, so we don't necessarily have to have a standalone school. Anything that gives our students a wider variety of pathways to enjoy the education that they're getting. We're all inspired by something different, and the more people that we can reach by having a wider diversity of opportunities, I think will give students and families a reason to come and stay in West Dallas. I think that we also need to make sure that we're expanding our classes for credit components so that we're sending our seniors off to whatever education system or future pathway that they want, where they have already built up credits where they can move into more specialty classes earlier and be able to spend less money at the upper level educations. And I think that we also want to promote and expand programs that provide training for the trades and apprenticeships so that people that aren't going on the higher level education still have a lot of education that comes from the schools that's going to get them on that trades pathway. Electricians, even just computer scientists that are just running code for websites. I think we just need to make sure that we're giving everyone the opportunity and the programs that they want to explore.
I agree with a lot that has been said. I'm a big fan of the CTE program, you know, career technology. I think that we should be having more partnerships with business and industry and having pathways for kids. I think from young on, we should be giving students experiences so that they know that maybe this is what I'm good at, or this is a talent that I have, or this is something that I'm interested in. Give them lots of rich experiences. And then by the time they leave us, they're ready to go into the world and make a difference and take action. And so to do that, we've got to have a lot of unique programming. We've got and what about the arts? Offering an art school, technology, music. We've always been we've always had such a great reputation for having good music programs in our district. Let's invest in those, and let's invest in our teachers, because our teachers are the front lines. They're the ones that are with those kids day in and day out. And they're the ones that are going to be building the relationships and helping those students become self-directed learners. Thank you.
What would I do to make our district a first choice district for families? I know that there are several families who do live within our school district whose children don't currently attend our schools. And I think that some of that has to do with the natural breaks in education, that they've moved here and their student hasn't completed, say, intermediate school. But once they do, then they'll attend high school here. I also know that we've lost students to some specializations that other districts have that we just don't. You know, everyone talks about career and tech ed, and I think it should be a focus for our district because college isn't for everyone. You know, a 4-year college or a 6-year program. But those facilities are the most expensive to build and maintain, and right now we just don't have the space in our current facilities to do that. Whatever happens in the future, I think it should still be one of our focuses, maybe taking an elementary school and creating a space where we are able to offer the room that we need to be able to offer those courses. I don't know what the solution will be. Maybe that's not one of them. Maybe it'll be something else, but I think it's definitely a focus that we should have for our high school students in creating that career in tech ed. There's a lot of things that we could do. I think we just really need to listen to our families on what it is that they want, and come up with a plan moving forward that addresses and helps meet the educational needs of their learners.
Thank you.
All right, thank you guys again. We're going to our 9th question from Rihanna.
What role do the arts have in our school district and students' education? And we will start with, yes, I can. What role do the arts have in our school district and students' education? And we'll start. What role do the arts have in our school district and students' education? And we will start with Mr. Schultz.
Well, my kids were actively involved in the arts. My son was in orchestra, my daughter was in band, choir, very good artist. So ever since they were young, they participated in the arts in our district. Had a chance to play in the pit during musicals and participate in other ventures in the arts. And what it does, the arts make a well-rounded student, gives students a well-rounded high school experience. And you just see, for some students, the arts are their program. You know, they may not be the greatest athletes. You know, maybe academically they're not at the top of their class. So the arts provide them with that opportunity to live a full experience throughout their educational time in our district. So my mic wasn't on. Sorry about that. So anyway, the arts really provide a full experience for the resident students in our district. And it's something that I'm proud our district provides. Because, again, as I said, not all students are athletes, not all students are at the top of their class academically. So the arts are what keep them a motivated student.
I think that the arts definitely have a very important role in our schools. I think that myself, I was not very athletically inclined when I was in high school, so I kind of tended to lean towards other activities. I think that the arts allow students to kind of break out of that right brain kind of mindset, where you're doing your reading, writing, arithmetic type things, where you're allowed to express yourself in a different way. And I think that's really important for us to develop as well-rounded people, is to be able to look at those other abilities that you may have, whether it's drawing, writing, whatever painting it is. So I think that is a very, very important part of the curriculum here in West Allis. I'm very happy that we have such a wonderful music program, because we've seen that people, children and students and people who play instruments, it does so much for them in terms of their, just even with problem solving. So I definitely think that we need to continue to have our strong art, programs, and continue to strengthen those programs also.
I don't think the arts have enough of a role in our district in how it allows students to free themselves from what they are traditionally fed in the classroom and what they are generally able to experience in the classroom. I think that the arts need to be able to expand. I don't know that I've witnessed a school board meeting where they've talked about the feeder program for orchestra or for art or theater. And so I think that we really need to look at how do we expand the role that art plays in everybody's life in the district. Because even students that are traditionally not artists and they go on to be architects or they go on to be computer scientists, there's a certain amount of art to that. And if you build an ugly building, no one's going to hire you. So having art is what really makes everything worthwhile. Having music is what makes doing something fun. It's allows us to be and express ourselves in ways that other content won't let us do. And so I think that it needs to play a bigger role. And I'd like to see more feeder programs for it so that we're not just talking about wrestling at district meetings.
So I kind of think it's like an analogy. We talk about a well-rounded education. And it would be like me saying to you, you're going to come to dinner at my house every night, and I might give you meat, and I might give you a starch, and I might give you a vegetable, but you know, there's always going to be one missing. We would never, ever have a well-balanced meal without all of those things. And you can't have a well-balanced school education without the arts. They're connected. And I think that we'd never have somebody say, well, you know, what do you think about if we had to cut math? We would never say that. Why would we even be having the conversation of not having the arts be a part of our district? I mean, I just think that it would be such a loss. Thanks.
One thing that I'm really, really proud of when the referendum failed was that we did not impact our music program. There's some statistic that says that if a student has the ability to participate in a music program, that they are more likely to succeed in their education. So it really does play a vital role in the success of all of our students. I'm very proud of our music program. I'm very proud that it was always a part, that we didn't take that away from our students and that it was always there. So I think it does play a really vital part in student success. I don't know what to say beyond that, and that's a short and sweet answer. Thank you.
I think the arts are very important in education. It enriches the student experience. You're making friends, interpersonal relationships. School is not just academics. It's a whole myriad of your experience and what you do. And once you have something you really enjoy, like the arts, you may push a little harder in the academics, which is good. All arts and extracurricular activities are a positive for any school. Thank you.
Thank you guys again. Heading on to our next question. That question will be asked by Saoirse.
What is something you think our school district should pride itself on? And then we'll start with Ms. Steele.
I'm sorry, what should our district pride ourselves on?
Yes.
In light of this very unique year, I think that our district should be very proud of, our educators should be proud of how well they were able to provide an education to our children virtually. I think that parents should be commended for, you know, well, I shouldn't say sick families should be commended for, you know, working with the schools in terms of, you know, figuring this out. I think the one thing that I noticed is that I feel like I'm much closer to my children's teachers this year than in the past, because we're all working as a team and trying to, you know, we're navigating this together. And I think, again, that goes back to the reason why, you know, my husband and I decided to stay in West Dallas and in this district is because when the going gets tough, you know, we come together and we help each other. I know that there were families out there that really struggled. I know that it was hard, you know, every family had different struggles when this happened. But in the end, I think that I saw our community come together. I know that there on Facebook, a bunch of parents came together and created a virtual Facebook support kind of group for everyone while we were doing this virtually. I think that's, what we should be really proud of, is how we've come together to really help each other out during this time.
I think our district has a lot to be proud of and should celebrate. I think one of the big things that is the most impactful for my family is the amount of diversity that West Allis has and the inclusion of that diversity in the everyday lives and working tirelessly to achieve equity and hopefully move towards justice for all of our students. I think that's huge, and I don't know that there's many other districts that are talking about it the same way that West Allis is. I think that our response to the pandemic this year, our teachers, our schools, our families, that should be commended. We've had to work under very difficult circumstances, and to the best of our ability, we have made it work. And it hasn't been necessarily wonderful for everyone because of the challenges that this kind of problem presents. But I think overall we have, as a community, done a fantastic job of trying to support, of trying to work through difficult things and be better as a community. Thank you.
Well, I am proud of so many things. I'm proud of our equity work. We have 11 non-negotiables that we have put together with community members and with staff and with students that say, hey, you know what? These are equity non-negotiables. These are things that we are going to do as a community, as a district, as a staff, that is going to make kids feel all-inclusive. And I think that is so important. So our equity work, our work on our strategic plan. For the first time, boy, that I can remember, we have a real mission and vision, and we're on the cusp of excellence. When I go to other districts, because I am a consultant now and I coach for other districts, they are so far behind in the academics that we are offering for our kids. Speaking academically, our project-based, our all of the work that we are doing in the deeper learning, those types of things, you should be really proud of. And just one more thing. So we also, for the first time in such a long time, we put together a guaranteed and viable curriculum. And what that means is that every child, 4K through 12th grade, is going to be guaranteed some exit skills. These are 4th grade skills that your child is going to be guaranteed to have. This 11th grader is going to have. And we put those together. We said, these are the things we need kids to have. So many things to be proud of. Thank you.
Oh, I'm so happy that no one stole my answer yet. There are a lot of things to be proud of, but I think that we need to recognize that the one thing that we should be the most proud of is all of our students. Never in the history of the world has a student had to learn virtually in their bedroom 5 days a week for months on end. You guys are superheroes. You've accomplished a lot, and we are very proud of you. If I had to pick one thing, it would be our students. Thank you.
That's not a very tough question for me. The school district should be proud of educating children and making a better community and nation. That's what the schools are created for. That's what their charter is. That's their business. It's fairly simple in my mind. Thank you.
First thing we can take pride in are, I won't repeat what Christine said, the students, families in our district that had to fight through some difficult times. Again, as I mentioned earlier, whether it was financial or economic, or children that had difficulty learning at home. Our families' dedication to try to educate their students, and we need to take pride in that, the efforts, the sacrifices that were made. And our staff our professional educators, our support staff, our facility staff, who worked above and beyond to make sure that our students were educated, and then when our students returned to school, that our facilities were ready, put in countless hours. And we should take pride in the fact that we are a school district that also understands we have gaps in equity. We have improvements we need to make. And instead of not talking about those, not discussing those, we don't hide from it. We're having open discussions on inclusion and equity in our school district. And we're trying to fight through those and create a more equitable school district for everybody who is involved.
Thank you guys again. Our 11th question will be coming from Taylor.
What did you like best about high school? Mr. Burns, you can start.
Can you repeat that?
What did you like best about high school?
It's a long time ago. You've stumped me, thank you. I think that the thing that I liked best about high school were the friends that I had, the community. I was involved in high school football, and we went to a couple of state championships, and that bond that was built while going through those programs is probably my biggest memory and was the most impactful for me. It gave me something to do, something to strive for, and for a long time I didn't actually go to school for school. It's weird, but I was more there to play athletics, and that gave me my out, and it also kept me then engaged in the education so that I was able to go on, and I played college football, and I went on to be a scientist, a chemistry teacher, where I really did not like chemistry in high school. But I went on to do it because the athletics gave me that opportunity to stay engaged.
Well, the first thing that popped into my mind was the cafeteria had these big, like, saucer cookies. They were chocolate chip cookies, and you could get them, and that was new for a high school, coming to a high school. That was a pretty novel thing. I can remember the chocolate chip cookies were to die for. But I think that one of the other things were the relationships that I built with my teachers. I knew that I wanted to be a teacher since I was in 4th grade. And my mother was a teacher, and it was the encouragement that my teachers gave me and the way that they set the example and the role models that they were for me. I can remember worrying more about taking copious notes about them than the content. And they encouraged me, and they knew I was going to be a teacher, and they encouraged me to go on and be the best that I could be.
What did I like best about high school? Probably all of those things that took place outside of the classroom. I don't know if you can tell this, but I was a cheerleader, and I loved it. I loved being on the sidelines and, rah-rahing for the football team behind us. We had an awesome basketball team. I went to Dominican. I just ran into a kid he goes, oh, I go there. I'm like, how's the basketball? He goes, they're still good. I'm like, great. Love cheering them on and going to state. That was my thing, but I think that's probably what we all really enjoy about school is all, well, except for maybe Jane, is all the outside activities. What makes a school experience more than just, putting your head in a book, right? Being able to be part of the band and be part of an athletic team and supporting them if you're not, athletic or you're just academic. So that was the one thing that I missed the most. That and the plays. Love plays.
Generally, and this is generally, the pride in accomplishing something in high school. But I really liked wrestling. I'll tell you the story real quick. When I was a freshman, I weighed 80 pounds. I was the only one who was not at a weight to make the 98-pound team. I wrestled varsity that year, and I got my butt kicked. The next 2 years, I had to cut weight to make 98, and I did very well. My senior year, I bumped up 25 pounds, and I got my butt kicked again. But wrestling was definitely my favorite thing in high school, and it taught me a lot about succeeding, failing, the whole 9 yards. Thank you.
I would say some of the, I graduated in 1982. I went to Brown Deer High School, so I'm dating myself a bit. Some of the crazy things that our teachers did in high school back then that I don't know if they would get away with nowadays. We had the teacher that had this piece of chalk that they had to be like an inch, a quarter in diameter, maybe that long, and he, on the chalkboard. One day he thought I was talking in class, took a round, threw it at me as hard as he could, splattered against the wall. I can picture that day like it was yesterday, getting that chalk thrown at me. He was the same teacher that would bring a can of sardines in the class every Friday, and if open your mouth, he would drop the sardine in, and every time you got a sardine, he'd give you 10 extra points for your exam. We had another teacher who took a box of chalk and he'd walk around and he'd be smoking it and he'd be handing out like it was serious. I mean, the stories go on. And I just think about what they did back then and like, can you do that now? So, yeah, it's just, crazy stories. And I wrestled in high school, but my joke when I wrestled in high school was, it's time to clean the mat. So Gary, get out on the mat so the opponent can clean the mat with you. So that's it.
What did I enjoy? I would have to say I was the nerd in high school, but I really enjoyed being that nerd. I was on the yearbook, and I was on newspaper, and I was on student government, and but it was just, I loved it. I loved the people that I was able to connect with, people that I'm still friends with today. But I think the biggest thing that I remember at high school, and I'm going to sound very similar to Jane, I actually went to college, as I mentioned earlier, to become a teacher before I realized that it's not my thing. But I did that because I had some of the greatest teachers when I was in high school. I actually had the same teacher 2 years in a row for AP English and Advanced English, and we are still very good friends, Mrs. Prost. I still can't call her by her first name, and yet we've been in a book club together that we started about 5 or 6 years ago. So I think that's kind of what I remember the best about high school, is those relationships that I made that continue today, especially those relationships with my teachers, with the educators. So that's it.
Thank you. Our next question will be from me. Currently, student athletes do not receive gym credits for sports they play outside of school hours. With the amount of time dedicated to sports amounting to almost 25 hours a week, should participating as a student athlete count as a gym credit? Ms. Carr?
Well, I would first say, bring your argument to the table. I would definitely ask that you bring me some evidence or some research to a board meeting. I don't get to make those decisions as a board member. I don't get to have an opinion about that. I get to listen to the reports and to the recommendations, and then as a board of 9, I make my decision. At this point, I would be open to hearing, and I would commend you for thinking outside the box and changing things that maybe were that way just because that's the way they always were, and why not change them? But again, I would have to go through the channels.
That's a really interesting question. I know that when my daughter was in high school, there was something that she did over the summertime that she was able to use for that half credit of physical education that school year. One of the things that we're just now talking about is maybe off, now that we have all of this, the ability to, create and build and, what what is going to create the profile of a graduate, for instance. And sometimes I think the reason why kids don't get involved in sports is that it's expensive, that families just can't afford it. You know, sometimes it's the transportation aspect of it. If sports were maybe more rolled into the curriculum of a school day, rather than it just being gym credit, where, you know, maybe, you know, playing basketball or playing volleyball, you know, just trying something new, that would help students create that sense of team, that sense of, you know, collaboration and working together. So it has been flexible in the past. It's certainly something to consider. And I would hope that, you know, more students would have the ability to try more sports or a variety of things. Thank you.
The question I would ask is, how would it be evaluated? And that's not necessarily a bad idea, but if you think about it, if you're an athlete, you're probably going to take gym as much as you can. That's the only comment I have. Thank you.
If the Department of Public Instruction allows extracurricular athletics to be substituted for gym credits, I think it's a great idea, if it's allowed. So the district would have to make an argument, I believe, to DPI that we are going to substitute sports for gym credit. And then the curriculum committee would have to develop a policy within the school district policies to make that happen. But I think it's a great idea and something I think the board should take a look at.
I'm going to agree with Gary and almost everyone here. I think it is a great idea. I think that if you, again, we'd have to look at how you would measure that. I know when I was in high school, I was able to do 2 semesters of junior achievement, and I was able to earn credit for high school. So I don't know why we wouldn't allow that. You know, even in today's working world, where, you know, a lot of people who are going back to college and such, we give them credit for what they've learned in their jobs. So, you know, it makes sense that if you're spending 20, 25 hours, you know, a week on an extra, you know, on a sport, that we would give you credit for that. So I certainly, again, would be on board for that. If it would free up time even for our students to take other courses, you know, some of those elective courses that maybe was filled up with that gym time.
Yes. I think that when you're an athlete and you're spending that many hours doing something, it should have a benefit beyond just going and playing in the games and participating in the tournaments. So yes, I think that it should. The question of whether or not it's allowed by DPI, how would it be evaluated, what impact that would have for our physical education teachers, I think that would have to be evaluated. But I think that there should be something that allows for credit for going and spending that much time doing something. Because like Amy said, we get credit for a work experience when we go back to school when you're an adult. So I don't see why it should be a huge issue. And I think it would allow for kids then to not necessarily have to take gym, but they could explore a different sport, a different way of looking at things, a nutrition class, something else that might help them more, that they'd get some a different education from. That's all. Thank you.
All right, thank you. One of our last questions will be from Kayla.
If you had to cut a current program the school district offers because of costs or effectiveness, what would it be and why? Ms. Klug.
Who is going first? I am? Could you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Sure. If you had to cut a current program the school district offers because of costs or effectiveness, what would it be and why?
Ooh, I don't know that there is anything right now. I think that last year, in trying to build the master schedule, that Project Lead the Way kind of got in the way of that, and that's why one of our English classes was kind of overflowing with students. I don't think that we offer that course anymore. So just by adjusting our master, by making that adjustment, our master schedule will work much better when we do physically get kids back into school full time. I don't know of anything that's an obstacle right now that we would remove. Don't have any thoughts beyond that. Thank you for the question.
I really don't know the answer to that question. But one thing I would not cut is extracurricular activities. Those are important for students. For some kids, that's their whole life. That's the reason they come to school. And if you cut that, you may cause other problems. And that's really all I have to say. Thank you.
So going with the assumption that we have to cut something has to be cut. And I've talked about this before, and I know many people get upset when I talk about it, but I would look at more athletic co-op in the district. We may have to cut teams, and schools will have to join in co-op, but it cuts cost. Controversial one, which I've talked about in the past, is possibly co-oping football. I remember the former athletic director at West Dallas Central High School once told me if you knew the true cost of operating a high school football team, people wouldn't believe what it costs to get a football team on the field. It's a lot of money. Facility is a lot of money. We're coming up with a field that needs to be redone. We need to put new turf on the field. You're looking at probably at least a $1.5 million cost for that. They're expensive. I mean, athletics can be expensive. And that if we say something has to be cut, I would look at sports co-ops.
I don't know how to answer this question because I'm not sure that I know that there's any areas that we necessarily need to cut costs in, or I think that's a really tough one because I think I would really need to look at, an itemized budget. I would need to talk to people to find out, what's working, what's not, to see if there are areas where, we might need to cut a program or adjust a program to see, yeah. So at this point, I'm sorry, I don't have anything that's popping up, so.
This is an impossible question because no matter what you say, someone will be upset by it. You can have controversial pieces where you cut athletics because they are a giant financial stress on a budget. You can cut arts, but we lose so much when we do that. And I think really what we would come down to is looking at the budgets and seeing where things are, what things are seen by the community and the school as a lowly attended, poorly attended class or activity. And I think that that's where you start cutting, is you look at the budgets, you look at the things that we have actual evidence for that if we cut it, we're impacting the least amount of students. My argument would be to just no cuts and to find another way to be able to keep the activities and the opportunities for the kids. But yeah, I'd look at the budgets and I'd look at where we can get the low-hanging fruit that would be able to be chopped off.
Yeah, so when a student would ask me a question as a teacher that I didn't know the answer to, I certainly would never make something up. I would say either, well, what do you think? and bring it back to them, or I would say, I need more information. And I certainly would need more information to answer that. I would not want to cut anything. And I would have to go through proper channels, and I would have to have people make proposals, and I would have to listen to all of the information, and then as a board, we would have to make that decision.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Our final question will be coming from Taylor, and make sure you have your thinking caps on for this one.
Uh-oh. I forgot my thinking cap at home.
Who would you want to play you in a movie about your life? Mr. Schultz, you're first.
I can't remember the actor's name. Man, he was in the movie with Ben Affleck. Damon?
Matt Damon?
Matt Damon. That's it. I want Matt Damon to play me. I love Matt Damon. I think he's a great actor.
Melissa McCarthy, 100%.
I am at a loss. I have no idea. Holy cow, I can't even think of an actor's name right now. Can I pass and you can come back to me?
Pass?
Nah, Arnold Schwarzenegger. We'll go with that. We'll go with the classic. There you go. Arnie.
So I love Reese Witherspoon, and but she's blonde. So I'm going to go with Sandra Bullock, because a lot of people say I kind of look like her and everything, and I think she's an amazing actress.
One of the things that I did after high school is I taught professionally, or I taught dance professionally, so I'd have to pick someone who's a dancer. So I don't know, I'm thinking that I'll just go with Jennifer Lopez today.
I really have no idea, but if you know the actor that played Rudy in the Rudy movie, that would be it, but I don't know his name. Thank you, yeah, that guy, yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you guys. That's all the questions we have for tonight. We will give you 1 minute for a conclusion. Ms. Deal, if you will.
I'm just going to keep it short and sweet, and I'm just going to say that I'm going to ask all of the community of West Allis to vote for me. A vote for Amy Deal, for myself, is a vote for growth and success for our students, families, our educators, our staff, and our
Yeah, vote for Brendan Burns. I am here for the community. I want our district to succeed, and I have a certain amount of urgency as I have very young children that are coming into the district, and so my desire to make West Allis what it can be is huge, and I think that you'll find a lot of support, both student opportunities, teacher opportunities, and community opportunities with a vote for me.
Voting for Jane Carr just makes sense. I have the educational background. I have that instructional piece that we need on the board. I have the motivation and the dedication, and I'm in this for all the right reasons. So it just makes sense to give me a chance. Thank you.
I just want to take a moment again to thank the Youth Commission for all of your hard work in coming up with these great questions and hosting this event tonight. I wished it would have been open to the public and we could have had a few more people here, but you know, it is what it is. So thank you for putting this event together. I also want to take this time to thank the community for having placed the honor upon myself of being able to serve for the last 3 years on the school board. I hope that I am able to gain a second term. So vote for me. I'm the last name on the ballot, Christine Klug. Thank you.
For me, education is important. You, kids, are important. The community is important. our country's important, and it all comes back to education. As far as the fiscal situation, I have a level head. I think critically. I think I can help out the school board and the school district, make sure that they do not make the same mistakes they made in the past. We need to teach kids and have fiscal responsibility. And you should vote for Joseph Mikolajczyk. Mikolajczyk.
Again, thank you to the Youth Commission, and thank you to the other candidates. This was an excellent forum. When I ran 3 years ago, one of the issues I ran on was to make sure that we had equity in our schools as far as students getting the opportunity to learn. And the school district has made great strides in putting in place project-based learning district-wide to try to close learning gaps we had in our district. And I feel with the facilities work that we're doing and the school pathways that we're going to develop, that will allow us to truly have equal opportunities, whether a student lives east of 43rd Street or west of 108th Street, each student has the same opportunities to learn.
So that's all we have for tonight. Thank you guys for coming in, and I'd just like to thank, from all of us, thank you guys for showing up. I'd like to thank all of my fellow commission members for coming in, helping out with all the questions, and then ultimately thanking the city as well for allowing us to use this space for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.